Thank you everyone for joining us today for the hybrid public hearing, April 17th, 2023. We are being streamed on Hartford Public Access Television or Channel 96 for Comcast Xfinity customers 6032 for Frontier. So today we have for the public hearing Councilwoman Surgeon, Councilman Hernandez, Madam President Rosado, Assistant Majority Leader Rossetti, Majority Leader Clark, and the Hartford Party's own Councilman GALE. And on the screen, I don't see Councilwoman Hercules. I know she was here earlier. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about 3 items for public hearing. And so the first one is 2.1, Mayor Bronin with a company resolution to enter into and execute a purchase and sale agreement with Renzo LLC or an affiliated entity established for such purpose for a purchase price of 30. There's an extra 0 on there. Is it 30,000? Oh, the rules. Oh yes, let me read the rules. That'll be nice. All right. So for public hearings shall be conducted in accordance with the following procedures. Each person wishing to address the council or committee thereof shall, upon recognition by the presiding officer, give his or her name, address, and if he or she represents a group, shall in addition state for the record the name and address of said group or organization, shall limit his or her remarks to 5 minutes. Councilman GALE is going to be our timekeeper today. All remarks shall be addressed to the council as a body and not to any member thereof. Any person making personal, impertinent, or slanderous remarks who becomes boisterous while addressing the council shall be forthwith barred by the presiding officer from further audience at said meeting unless permission to remain is granted by a 2/3 vote of the council members present and voting. During the public hearing, there shall be no debate by the council, although questions may be asked by the council of persons making such presentation. Okay, so today we'll be going over 2.1, Mayor Bronin with accompanying resolution to enter into and execute a purchase and sale agreement with Renzo LLC or an affiliated entity established for such purchase for a purchase price of 30,000. 30,000? Okay. Also, item number 2.2, which was introduced by Councilman John GALE, Councilwoman Shirley Surgeon, Council President MALY D. Rosado, Majority Leader THOMAS.J. Clark, Assistant Majority Leader MARILYN Rossetti, with accompanying ordinance to increase the fines and frequency that fines may be levied for illegal parking of tractors and tractor trailers. And item number 2.3, introduced by Councilman John GALE, Assistant Majority Leader MARILYN Rossetti, Councilman Nick LeBron, and Council President MALY D. Rosado, with accompanying ordinance amending Chapter 26, Article 1, Section 26-1 of the Municipal Code of Hartford to create the Department of Parks and Recreation. So first on the list, we have, let me see here. Well, I don't have it. No, I'm gonna go by the list and then see. Did they show which one they were? No, it doesn't say. Yeah. All right, so first we're going to go with Vicky Garland Clark. And so what we'll ask is, Ms. Garland Clark, what item you're speaking on, if you're for or against the item, and also the address of where you live, where you reside.
Okay, thank you, Councilman LeBron. I'd like to also acknowledge Madam President Rosado and the rest of the council members. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Vicky Garland Clark. I'm a long-term resident of North Hartford. I'm also with the Blue Hills Civic Association, also doing business as Building Hartford through Community Action. I'm speaking regarding the ordinance to add a new department, Parks and Rec. And so before I do that, I just like to make a general comment. It's general, but I think it's very significant in that it seems to be historical that residents get news very, very late, extremely late. As a city, I think we need to do better to make sure residents have information on a timely basis so that they can be engaged. Why? When there's more inclusion, you get better results as a municipality. Residents need to be involved. So that's with the budget hearings, that's with other hearings, and I heard people say, well, just go to our website. We shouldn't rely upon just go to our website. There needs to be more intentional outreach to make sure residents are informed about these meetings, informed about initiatives and things like that. So I like to say that for the record. Okay, I just spent about an hour and a half plus listening to the budget hearings for the Family, Children, and Youth and Recreation Department. And I think that everybody here would agree that Director Baldwin did an outstanding job as far as the presentation, her and her team. The presentation was just really, really flawless. And I also saw that her department, after much analysis and planning and deliberation, will be expanding the Recreation Department, the Parks and Recreation Department. Not only just expanding it, but adding additional dollars for functioning to expand hours, staffing, programming, and things like that. So my question to the city council members, why does it seem to be that you're in a rush to take the Park and Recreation Department from this current department and put it under a new department head? It just seems like you're rushing to do this. Why now is my question. Why not, since Director Baldwin proposed to do this expansion of the Parks and Rec with additional hours, additional programming, additional locations, why not let that expansion occur, do a mid-course correction, maybe in 6 months, and then a year do an evaluation regarding the performance? I'm just not clear why this rush as opposed to doing your due diligence. I suggest that, and also, who is this new department head? I mean, why is this person even acquainted with the needs of the youth, know about the city of Hartford and the unique needs that the city has? Why not do your due diligence in exploring this new design, and then let the youth who are going to be primarily impacted, let them have a say into this design? Again, inclusion, not including the residents, not including the people who are to be serviced. So it's just very, the only word that I can think of is very suspicious as to why rushing through this process after hearing about the planning and analysis that FCYR is doing and the proposal that's on the table. I really think that we need to step back, do your due diligence. Let the department, the FCYR department, go ahead with their expansion and then evaluate performance. Thank you so much.
I have a question for you, Ms. Garland Clark.
Yes.
As always, and I always tell you, I hold your opinion in high esteem. So are you for or against the merging of?
I'm against doing anything right now based upon what I just heard Director Baldwin just lay out, the expansion of the Parks and Recreation Department, the additional dollars that she is allocating to that department. Let's go ahead and support what she's doing and then evaluate the performance. That's what I'm saying, the due diligence, the analysis. Let that be in place. And then during that time, engage our youth and young people who are going to be the most directly impacted by this department on what design would they like to see, and what services and programs do they need? So that's what I'm proposing. Thank you so much.
Ms. Garland Clark, just you also mentioned another piece. If you don't mind, I just want to ask you one more question.
Absolutely.
So you mentioned another piece that you said it felt rushed.
It really does.
Can you just elaborate more? Because I don't see any timing that's off. There hasn't been any special meetings. There hasn't been one-off meetings. You know, a proposal was introduced. We voted on it. It's going to committee. Here's the public hearing. So nothing's been voted on. There hasn't been any structural differences. So I'm just trying to understand more your feeling of it being rushed.
Yes, and so it's a perception. And so from everything I understand about perception equates to reality in the eye of the beholder. So from a perception standpoint, and if I'm looking at this and asking, why are we rushing? Other residents are asking the same question. So I guess in the way that it's being done, the timing of it, it's why now. So it's a perception that I have.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, a point of order,
You're very
Robert's
welcome.
rules.
Yes.
Point of order. The hearing order is published, so are you going out of order, and are you not doing its traditional for and against? Could you,
So
point
what
of
we're
order?
doing is, since the hybrid version, it was very difficult to get for and against ahead of time. And so we want to accommodate everyone in a timely fashion in the time that they got here. And so what we're doing is asking folks to just tell us to speak on what item they're speaking on and if they're for and against the item.
Okay, so you went off the rules. So is there another rule I can look up?
As far as I'm aware, there isn't any particular rules. As long as I'm asking if anyone is for or against, and I allow everyone to speak 3 times.
All right, there is an actual prescribed method for a public hearing, but thank you.
Yeah, but it's hard to accommodate people that have been waiting for a long time, Ms. Peterson. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
All right. So the next person we'll ask to speak is Jonathan Mann. Is Jonathan Mann, are you available?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. If you could tell us your full name, where you live, and what item you're speaking on, and if you're for or against.
Yeah, my name is Jonathan Mann. I live 101 Whitney Street in the West End. And I'm speaking for the Parks and Recs item. Should I just go ahead?
Yes, go ahead. You have 5 minutes.
Yeah, so from my perspective, my family's perspective, you know, a lot of towns around here have all kinds of activities for kids. Our kids do swimming lessons in West Hartford and soccer, and we have 2 kids ages 6 and 9, and we are licensed foster parents. We don't have a foster kid yet, but we're licensed for fostering, and so we would really love to just have those kinds of opportunities for the kids in Hartford that are available to kids in all of the surrounding towns. It just seems like a no-brainer to me.
Okay, thank you. All right, next person is Sarah Becker.
Hi there.
Hello, Ms. Becker. The floor, if you could just tell us your full name,
Sure.
if you're representing anyone, your address, the item you're speaking on, and if you're for or against.
My name is Sarah Becker. I am at 734 Prospect Avenue, and I am speaking on item 2.3, the Parks and Recreation Ordinance. My family and I moved to Hartford from Texas in the spring of 2021, and we are really thrilled to be in Hartford, and we bought a house last summer. We believe in the investment in public spaces, and the creation of a Parks and Recreation Department would be an investment in the children and people of Hartford. During our first summer here, my kids and I visited Pope Park Pool multiple times per week. While I think Pope Park and the pool are a jewel, they are also in dire need of investment. The changing rooms, bathrooms are really need a renovation. And last summer, similar to Mr. Mann's comments, we visited New Britain upon the invitation of a friend and swam in their beautiful new pool. And the difference was just really upsetting, quite frankly. And I also think the programming is missing. Again, I echo what Mr. Mann already said. My daughter recently took a babysitting course in West Hartford from their Parks and Rec department. The programming that they offer their residents during school breaks is really popular, and I think why can't Hartford do that also? That kind of programming. I just think there's no reasons why the suburbs should have all these amenities while we don't have them in Hartford. And I think that the creation of a Parks and Rec department will provide leadership that can help the council in the discussions of where to invest our dollars, where to get the most return, and just provide a vision for our most vital public spaces, which are our parks. And I think Hartford is a really wonderful place to live, and the creation of this department would only enhance the city and truly serve the folks who live here. So I hope that you all will support this ordinance.
So for the record, Ms. Becker, you are for?
Yes, in
Thank
favor.
You. All right. All right, the next person to speak I have on my list is Sharon Ledbetter. Ms. Ledbetter, just state your full name, your address, or who you're representing, the ordinance you're speaking on, or if you're for or against.
My name is Sharon Ledbetter. I am at 51 Barber Street in Hartford, Connecticut, and I'm representing
Hello, Ms. Ledbetter?
in my community, and I have this particular vote is it, hello?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay, Sharon Ledbetter, 51 Barber Street, Hartford, representing myself and my community. And I just have a quick point of clarification, or I'm asking for clarification. This particular vote, is it just for the expansion of the Parks and Recs department, or is this about the appointment of the person who's going to be assigned to it?
So this is about the potential for the ordinance is merging back the Parks and Rec department. There's nothing to do with the person assigned to the department.
All right. Okay. If that is the case, then I am for it.
Thank you. Are you going to?
No.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. The next person on the list is Craig Merkins.
Good evening. My name is Craig Merkins. I live at 114 Adelaide Street, and I am representing the Hartford Parks and Recreation Advisory Commission. I just want to first off thank all the hard work that's gone into looking into this potential bringing back the department as a dedicated recreation department. As a member of the Hartford Parks and Recreation Advisory Commission for about 26 years, and as the chair for 4 years and presently the co-chair, I think this most important consideration to bring back to the capital city, the recreation department, has been a major priority of PRAC for the past probably close to 15 years. Access to recreational programming blends through what is called quality of life. It provides all ages and interest groups the importance and opportunity to express, learn, socialize, run, stretch, challenge themselves, and feel good about the new and exciting adventures. that also plays a major factor in influencing our efforts in violence prevention. I think when you look at the country overall coming out of COVID, I think the mental health crisis is a challenge for all of us, particularly our young population. So I think in my 30 years at Riverfront, I understood the value of creating and developing positive recreational programming, including concerts, rowing, dragon boating, adventure course, festivals, fireworks, fishing clinics for kids, fun runs, biking programs, partnerships with the Capitol Prep Athletic Department, and local, regional, and national sporting events. That's the positive impact that recreation has on the city of Hartford. As a baseball coach in the city of Hartford for 12 years, we need to develop our youth at an early age and assist in their talents to paint on canvas, to shoot a three-point shot, catch a fish, or dance in the parks. Recreation is an important link for all ages in the city of Hartford, and I definitely am for that proposal. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Merkins. Next on the list is Mary Pelletier.
Hello, I'm Mary Rico Pelletier. I live at 80 Elizabeth Street in Hartford, Connecticut. I've lived there now for 20 years. And I just want to reiterate Craig Mergen's point that the Parks and Rec Advisory Commission, which I was the acting chair of from 2005 to 2012, just before Craig took over, is that we talked about the reformation of a Parks and Rec Advisory Commission repeatedly. So we see this as very much, I mean, I just want to say there's nothing new about this discussion from within the PRAC Commission, just to be clear about that. I'm actually here really as a resident and also as the chair of, as the secretary of Park Watershed, also the secretary of the Friends of the Silvio Conti National Fish and Wildlife Refuge. Although I'm not speaking on their behalf, but I'm the friend. And, you know, I really think that we have to recognize that when the Parks and Rec, when our Hartford parks were formed over 100 years ago, Park Watershed is an organization that's named after our first public park in the United States that was paid for by public funds. That's Bushnell Park. This was a new idea. It was a new idea to conserve nature in our cities for access and benefit to all of our people. What we learned during the pandemic is that nature is essential to well-being. It's not only essential to individual health and well-being, but it's essential to our neighborhood health and well-being because of the ecosystem services provided by nature within our city, especially the capacity of parks and intact forests to bring down the urban heat island. And I think as we saw this past week, we're going to see accelerating heat waves, right? And that we could see over 3 months of 90-degree weather within our city. And we need to do as much as we possibly can to bring down temperatures in our city and to make places beautiful and safe, but also to recognize the climate and biodiversity crisis. Now, I realize in kind of that the pressure is on right now for the city council to really provide recreational benefits, to have decent public pools, and you know, I had all that stuff when I was a kid that I could walk to and playscapes and all that stuff. So I'm actually going to pivot from an email that I sent earlier this evening and highlight what we could think of during this process of forming a new Parks and Rec Advisory Commission is also think about forming a recreational districts around our surrounding parks so that we begin to think about how to move adult recreational facilities that need bathrooms, lighting, that are increasingly synthetic turf field, that want bleachers and parking, and also want to sell concessions and begin to move that, again, that recreational equipment, which is the platform, a stepping stone to $1 billion sports industry, right? I think it's $30 billion worldwide sports industry that we want our kids to have access to, but move that off of our historic nature, our historic parks, and create like a bid. Our bids are our business development districts, right? But create that recreational districts around some of our city parks, so that some of our city, so we can have public-private partnerships around our sports facilities, which I've learned from Hartford Decides is that many residents of Hartford are going to Farmington to play in those bubbles, that are open 24/7, all year round, because they're adult leagues. They need time after work. They need time at night. They pay to do that. So why not we think about that level of engagement around our city parks to provide not just youth and amateur sports, but to see all those relationships and gradations. So that's my recommendation. Again, I sent an email earlier, moving constructed recreational sports facilities, which require, again, increasingly lighting, increasingly synthetic turf fields, bleachers, bathrooms, concessions, parking. That is not nature. That is not the historic intent of our parks, and we can move that off of our parkland and keep parks for free play and for nature in our city. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. So just for clarity and for the record, Ms. Pelletier, is your item number 3, you're talking about item number 3, and you're for item number 3?
With amendments.
With amendments.
With amendments to highlight historic landscape issues and the benefits of ecology, but also how amendments that kind of think about the district, how recreational facilities, the gradation between amateur free play and constructed facilities.
Thank you.
And where do those belong in our city in relationship to the nature, free public access to healthy ecosystems?
Thank you. Next, we have Ms. Cynthia. So, Ms. Yenny, if you could tell us your full name, address, the item you're speaking on, and if you're for and against.
Hello, I'm Cynthia. I'm also a commissioner and Pratt. I live in the south end of Hartford, and I'm here to speak in the fact that, I have a lot of issue with our recreation in general. And for years I've seen it's gone down, and because there's no sense of organization, there's no leadership. It's just out there, like, you can hit or miss. There's no real structure program that, you look at other towns that you can tell when you go into a recreation center where their hours are print up what they do and stuff like that. You can go into Pope Park, and most time that swimming pool is closed, or, a few kids come in and play basketball, when indeed, under the right leadership, a well-structured program could really benefit our young people or our elderly or resident in general. You have, people come from all over that runs programs. Some of them, most of the time, do not stress to get our Hartford kids involved in programs. People are coming from outside and running programs for out-of-town children. And then you look at other towns. They have well-structured programs. You go on their website, everything is well thought out. And we cannot get that right. So all our parks, recreation, those buildings are all daycare center. Never used to be like that. So again, recreation is right in the middle. Like, nobody cares about really what happened. We just do it anyway because it's recreation. What I would love to see is more structured program for our residents. So I can count on every Tuesday at 5:30 to 6:30, there is Zumba, and I know it's there. Not hitting and missing, okay? So what I'm looking for is structure to make things work for the resident of the city of Hartford. I'm not worried about people that come from the outside, okay? I'm worried about our resident, our young people who is out of school and have no place to go because somebody rent the property out to some CVS or whatever the case may be. And how do we benefit when our kids are on the street getting themselves in trouble, in danger of harm to themselves? I'm very much concerned about that. We need leadership, and we need it now. Thank you.
So, Ms. Yanni, you're for item 4,
Yeah.
3.1? Thank you.
I'm for.
Next up, I think it's virtual, Ms. Angela Harris. Ms. Harris, if you could please tell us your full name, your address, the item you're speaking on, and if you're for and against.
Good evening. I am currently, can you all hear me? Just want to,
Yes, Ms. Harris.
okay, because my internet is giving me signals, so I'm going to actually stay off camera. Angela Harris, I'm a resident, but I'm serving as the North Hartford Promise Zone resident liaison to the Health and Wellness Initiative, and I also serve at the Greater Hartford African American Alliance, chair of the Health, Equity, and Environmental Justice Committee. And both these this matter, item 2.3 on your agenda regarding the separation of Parks and Recreation from the Department of Families, Children, Youth, and Recreation is extremely concerning. I, quite frankly, am not confident as to whether I am for or against this proposal. I am extremely concerned about the rushed process, the lack of information provided to the public, the timing even of this public hearing bumped up against the Department of Family, Children, Youth, and Recreation's budget that just ended their presentation, their budget hearing on the same day without the community having even the ability to even respond to that. This is not even about the money, right? The budget. I'm concerned about the process. Where is the fire? Why was the attached information that Mr. Councilman John Gale shared, an analysis that was done way back in February of this year, all this information, why wasn't it made available to the public? And even why wasn't it included in the notification of this proposed resolution? Where is the public participation in this process so that residents can make the decisions from an informed point of view? Why wasn't even this public hearing noted in today's One Hartford weekly newsletter? I mean, there's so many questions I have. Why is this process being crammed down the throats of residents, employees, unions? All of these departments have unionized labor. Is this what you all call due process? This matter is far too important to be rushed through or taken lightly. Mr. Gale referenced all kind of data that should be available for the person who's hired to be the director to acquire upon hire. But my question to you as council members is, why don't you already have this data? And why all of a sudden now is it important for you to rush this process through? You all have oversight through your parks committee, right? There's have been ample time for you all to review in the current administrative department all that you need to know. Whether you have been holding folks accountable to what you desire with all of these changes, to me, we don't need more bureaucracy. We need improved access and improved programming. I finally, you know, because I know timing is of the essence, I'm questioning this whole process by a city council that come November might take a different shape. I don't think by July 1, you know, anything that you all do from that point until January will truly make a difference. All the study that you want the director to do, to provide, can be done right now. Again, you all should already have all of this information. So rather than cram this down the community's throat and not have us involved. Oh, and by the way, why wasn't this brought up during the charter revision process, where you could talk about changing departments and administrative duties? Any money to go towards a director or any support staff for a new director should be put into programming for our youth, our seniors. We need service, not bureaucracy. So again, I'm not sure what I'm for or against, because this process to me is illegitimate and inappropriate, and the timing is foul. Absolutely, this body need not to be making decisions for the future of the city. Not now. And you all have had ample time to do it when the department was fully staffed and you didn't hold them accountable. So why now? What is making multiple departments going to do with your holding folks accountable?
Yes, yes,
So I will close there. And again, I don't know whether I'm for or against. I know you'll be asking that question. I'm concerned about the process. Thank you.
So, Ms. Harris, quick question. The same question I asked Ms. Garland Clark. You mentioned the timeliness, or you feel that it's expedited. I think I'll go on a limb and say that in terms of communication, let me speak for myself. In terms of communication on the city side, we can always do a better job with communication. But in specific to this particular item, I haven't seen anything different in terms of the process. The data that I think you're referring to was a resolution that was introduced in September, and the rec department for the data reported that in February. These were all public information with notifications. We're going to be speaking about it in committee. I'm just trying to think what gives Ms. Garland Clark mentioned perception is reality. So I just want to make sure that I'm acknowledging why this particular item seems rushed, Ms. Harris. If you don't mind, I just want to ask you that question.
Absolutely. I would be happy to explain why I think it's rushed. You all just passed this resolution last week, and we have in the middle of the budget process, which is what?
Ms. Harris, it wasn't
all week long. Okay. Wait. You all passed this out of committee last week. Am I not mistaken? Because I was watching.
No, we didn't. We moved it to committee. So we're going to be speaking on it.
You moved it. I'm sorry, I used the wrong term. You moved it to committee a week ago.
Yes, ma'am.
During the budget process, right? And on the same night of the Parks and Rec, Department of Family, Children, Youth and Recreation's budget hearing, at the same time, by the way, that a Northeastern RZ meeting is held. Okay. There's a lot, and without, in my opinion, proper notice in your own weekly communication for folks that may have, normally when you have the public hearings, you all send emails to say register, right? and then you follow it up with notification in the email. Like, there's a lot of missteps that happen for this particular issue, and I just keep wondering why, what is the rush? We've been suffering with lack of appropriate services for far too long for you all to rush this process. And as folks are sharing their experience and expertise, I'll share mine. It was me in 2004 who walked then Director Clarence Corbin through Parker Memorial Community Center to point out all the areas that needed improvement and fought to get Parker Memorial renovated and redeveloped. That was yours truly. And it's also me who is also a basketball referee. So I understand from direct experience the importance of sports. And in addition to that, I understand that the life expectancy gap in our community, for instance, the difference of 15 to 20 years difference from living in Hartford versus West Hartford, 3 miles difference, can be improved by promoting healthy lifestyles and activity and moving our bodies. So yes, being out in nature, being able to walk safely in your neighborhood, having mechanisms to reduce stress and cortisol levels so that we are healthier human beings, these are all extremely important. For
Yes.
you all as council people to rush through this process is tantamount to criminal.
Yes, yes, Ms. Harris, so it sounds like you answered the question. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. All right, next to speak is Benjamin Cruz. Benjamin? If you could please state your full name, your address, the item you're speaking on, and if you're for and against.
Benjamin Cruz. I born and raised in Hartford. I currently live at Warrington Avenue. I am for item 2.3 on the agenda. First thing I want to say is the level of organization. I basically want to echo what Cynthia said. The level of organization and leadership in the city has been in this area suffering for way too long. I have 2 kids, they're both on the spectrum, ages 12 and 8. And the level of opportunities that they have in the city to join a swim team, to play in a lacrosse program, any type of non-traditional sport that is offered in East Hartford, in West Hartford, in Weathersfield, is non-existent. And in Hartford, we have the resources to provide that. We do not have the organization. Ms. Harris spoke about the process. The time is always right to do what is right. People talk about the process to slow down progress. And so I am concerned about this need for process when we know what is right. We know the right thing to do to improve the level of offerings to our children in the city is to separate Parks and Rec, to provide adequate leadership, and then to produce programs and offer them to our kids. If you look right now, what does the city of Hartford actually offer? Little to nothing. And so what I'm concerned about are my 2 children. What I'm concerned about are the countless children that when they're looking for programs, they have to look far and wide or go to nonprofit organizations to do so. That, as opposed to rushing the process, is what's disgraceful in my mind. And when I heard Ms. Harris speak and others speak about the process, what I didn't hear is anything about the benefits to children. That's what I'm concerned about. I'm concerned about my 2 kids and their ability to access programs just like any little kid from West Hartford or Avon. And the way that you do that is you separate Parks and Rec out of this monstrosity of an agency. You appoint adequate leadership, you set real goals, and you hold the leadership accountable to meeting those goals. And so I am for this amendment. I think it's taken way too long, and so I applaud you for putting this forth. And I really do hope that you don't get bogged down in that is bureaucracy. Elongated process is bureaucracy. Doing what's right and doing it expeditiously, that is progress. And so that's what I'm looking for as a citizen. That's what I'm looking for as a father. And I really hope that you all have the courage to push this through as quickly as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Next to speak is Francine Austin.
Hi, thank you.
Are you
Thank you.
online?
Yes,
Okay.
can you hear me? Yes.
Yes.
I'm here, Francine Austin.
Yes.
I am a resident, a native of Hartford, Connecticut, on the Upper Albany Adams Street side off of Homestead. I am also a board member of the Upper Albany NRZ. And so tonight I've listened to everyone speak, and everyone has had very valid points, right? And so after listening to Director Baldwin's presentation, I guess my question tonight is, if she's going to expand the services, right, that are being offered through Parks and Recs, I guess if we all, it sounds like everyone has the same goal, and the goal is the children, because that's what matters most, are the youth in the community, right? That we have opportunities for them, and that we make decisions based on their best interests. So I guess my question would be tonight, and I would like an answer if possible, why are we reinventing the wheel, right? And let me be clear, I don't mean the part that doesn't work. I mean, if she has this, Director Baldwin has the opportunity to expand Parks and Recs, why are we not in support of Director Baldwin? That's what I don't understand.
So, Ms. Austin, just for clarity, if you could give, I think you said you lived in the Upper Albany neighborhood, or were you
on Adams Street? I live on Adams Street,
okay.
off of Homestead Avenue,
Yes.
between Homestead and Albany Avenue.
Yes, and are you for or against this item?
I'm against it.
Okay. Thank you. Next to speak is Sylvia Noriega. Sylvia, I can't see the screen. I don't see a Sylvia Noriega, so we'll go to the next person. So the next person I have is Jody Ann Daly. No Jody Ann. I forgot my glasses today. The next to speak is Kelvin Lovejoy. Mr. Lovejoy? If you could just...
Good evening. Can I be heard?
Yes, sir. The floor is yours.
Good evening, council members, and thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening. My name is Brother Kelvin X. Lovejoy, and I am a lifelong resident of Hartford, currently residing at 51 Barber Street, as well as the Director of Community Organizing and Family Engagement at Blue Hills Civic Association, doing business as BHCA. This evening, I would like to express a few thoughts about Park and Recreation. I believe it is item 2.3 in the city of Hartford. In an article written almost a year ago to date on ConnecticutHistory.org entitled "The Park Movement in Hartford." Throughout the first half century of the 20th century, the first half of the 20th century, Hartford played an important role in the national movement to establish outdoor recreational spaces within cities. Building on the initiative of Reverend Horace Bushnell in the 1850s, Hartford transformed a vital wasteland along its Hog River into America's first publicly funded city park endorsed by popular vote. Largely completed in 1864, the park was an oasis in the midst of a growing industrial and commercial municipality. Inspired by development in Europe, social reformers in the United States sought to create public green spaces within urban environments as a means to promote public health, moral uplift, and democratic access to forms of recreation deemed respectable, it says, by middle and upper class champions of the movement, whoever they were. However, here we are today, 159 years later. Not only does the landscape of Hartford look different, but the demographics are quite different from 1864. Hartford has approximately 125,000 residents or so, a majority of them being Black and brown population. With the new Park and Recreation Department proposal, how do we include more of the voices of residents? We need a vibrant Park and Recreation Department, as we have heard other speakers endorse, but we also need the voice of the people. As I understand it, the council has respectfully been asked that this proposal be postponed until after the new fiscal year has begun, July 1st, 2023, or even later, and that this matter possibly should be considered after the November 2023 election cycle. Furthermore, and in conclusion, perhaps it should be on the upcoming ballot as a referendum that residents can decide as we elect our next mayor and city council. The fiscal year 2024 budget, as I understand it, has already been in process and underway. There should be more civic engagement and voice of the people, the interests of those who live in Hartford. Thank you very much.
So, hello, Brother Lovejoy. So just a quick question. So this hasn't been voted on, just for clarity, and it's going to go to committee. So the options that you discussed are still on the table. Was there an impression that you felt that it wasn't? I mean, barring a referendum, or there's no referendum for this year, but barring the other options, it can get voted down, it could get postponed, all of those things can still happen. Was there communication and or impression that that wasn't the case, Brother Lovejoy?
I think that, again, perception, I think also just the need to put that public statement out. I mean, we have tons and tons, hundreds, if you will, of young people at Weaver High School who are being trained and prepared to utilize their voice, along with parents who would like to have voice as well in any kind of opportunity as important as recreation and parks in our city.
Okay. Thank you, Brother Lovejoy. Next to speak is Jayden Stewart. Jayden Stewart, if you could please state your full name, address, the item you're speaking on, and if you're for and against.
Hello, can you hear me?
It's very, if you could put the volume up on your computer. Try again.
Can you hear me now? Am I still low?
Yeah, you're still on, Mr. Stewart. Go ahead.
All right, so good afternoon, Good afternoon, City Council members. My name is Jayden Stewart. I am a resident of Hartford, residing at 5 Deerfield Avenue, and a youth leader at the Blue Hills Civics Association, and a student at Weaver High School. This evening, I would like to express a few points about the social importance of park and You hear me? You can hear me? Recreation?
Yes, you could. Hello? We can hear you.
Yeah. The social importance of park and recreations. Parks are a tangible reflection of the equality of life and the thriving communities. Parks and recreation services are often cited as one of the most important factors in services of how livable communities are. Parks provide gathering place for youth, families, and social groups, as well as individuals of all ages and economic status. Regardless of their ability to pay for access, this is especially important for teens in Hartford. Parks and Recognition Program provides places for health and well-being that is accessible by persons of all age and abilities, especially to those with disabilities and youth in our community. Access to park and recognition or opportunities has been strongly linked to reduction in crime and to reduce juvenile sorry, den- detention system, delinquency. I would like to know how we as youths can give our input as to what we would like to see in our park and recognition department in in the city of Hartford. Thank you very much.
So, Mr. Stewart, just for clarity, you're for this item or against this item?
I'm against this item.
Against this item, okay. Okay, the next to speak is Ms. Sherry Frazier. Ms. Frazier, if you could state your full name, address, the item you're speaking on, and if you're for and or against.
Hello, everybody. My name is Sherry Frazier, and I've lived in Hartford my whole life. Okay, I currently live in the north end of Hartford. I'm going to first speak on the first item. Ooh, let me put on my glasses. Oh, no, it's going to be brief on all three. I'm against the Renzo, the 2.1, which is Renzo LLC, purchasing the properties for $30,000. I think we should use that property to and allow the community to build, teach them how to build up that particular property. How, like they do in the suburbs when they want to keep someone out, how they purchase the property and then build it up from there on, instead of giving it to an outsider and the outsider making that decision. The community can form a group and build on that. So I'm against someone from the outside getting that property for nothing and then taking out loans at a reduced rate from the Hartford Loan Committee. The next thing I'm going to comment on is the 2.2, which is the with the accompanying ordinance to increase the fines and frequency that fines may be levied for illegal parking of tractors and tractor trailers. For that particular item, I am for it, but the most important thing, please look at the type of vehicle that you're referring to. It says on here, illegal parking of tractors and tractor trailers. It should say what the community has a problem with, and that is cargo trucks. We have a number of cargo trucks throughout the community that are parking illegally and is affecting the traffic within our city. Okay, it's not not just tractor trailers and tractors. Please amend it to say cargo box cars. And the reason why we want to say that is because when police officers are called, because it might be 20 or 40 cargo trucks, they'll say, there's a difference. Look at the ordinance. The ordinance says tractors and tractor trailers. It doesn't say box cars. We want to make sure the terminology reflects what is actually taking place. You get it? So I'm for that, but just make sure you change the terminology to reflect what's actually taking place so that when we call the police department, they could act effectively instead of ineffectively, okay? The last thing, which is 2.3. Okay, it's right now, this is about parks and recreation. Right now, we're doing an ineffective job of running it. Why would we want to add something more to it when we're not running what we have effectively? Our kids are suffering, our neighbors are suffering, and we're utilizing the spaces for something that it wasn't intended to be. The seniors, the students, nobody is using it because we're using it to take care of homeless people. We're using it to take care of everything else but our children. Our children are our future. We should never rush into something that the community hasn't had time to process and think about, okay, what do we want? And then on top of that, we set aside money to take care of certain things, but we haven't been able to execute it because we're using the facilities to for other things. So please, let's step back. Let's think about our future, which are our children, and think about that we are not using the facilities properly, and our children are not able to enjoy it. And remember, with all that COVID money that we spent, that we say we spent on it, let's really do a FOI and see whether or not that money was used properly.
Ms. Frazier, just for clarity, on the last item, are you for or against?
I'm totally against it,
Against.
sir.
All right, thank you. Next, we have Ms. Alyssa Peterson.
Good evening, Council. Alyssa Peterson, 297 Grandview Terrace. You've had to listen to a lot tonight, so I pity that you have to listen to me. But anyways, I'm speaking for, to be clear, let's talk about the Parks and Rec item first. I'm a little disappointed at the speakers this evening. If they'd done their research, they would know that this is a valiant effort that has been undertaken to bring back the Parks and Rec Department. I was here living in Hartford when it was disbanded, and it was disbanded shamefully for political reasons because of infighting with staff. So think about it. Our Hartford youth have suffered ever since then for a department that could have been acting on their behalf all these decades. So if folks would look at the ordinance as proposed, to Councilman Gale's point, all it does is establish the department again separately, the way I read it, number one. Number two, paragraph A specifically states prospectively meaning that the department will enact whatever the administration in this council budgets for going forward. So already, unfortunately, Mayor Bronin and his administration have set forth what they're going to do this year, and you are budgeting for that this year. Come next year, when the new mayor comes in and sets forth his or her budget, that budget will take place. You will vote on it. You will make suggestions about it, and then that will be enacted. So the ordinance, as I read it, is prospective. It says it shall enact, this new department shall enact anything that the council and new mayor decide shall be in the Parks and Rec purview. This is very important. The city of Hartford needs to offer its children what the rest of the surrounding towns have, whether it's Avon, Canton, Simsbury, etc. I'd also like to address the issue of funding. It's up to you where you put funding. If the mayor says, I'm going to put it here, you may say no, must put it there. So again, prospectively, you can determine what Parks and Rec budget is. And as regard funding, I understand that Mayor Bronin has not wanted to add to employees for pension reasons, for salary reasons, et cetera. We don't need to worry right now what this department is going to look like, how many people it's going to have, what it's going to be staffed as. That's to decide in the future. But more specifically, the Friends groups, that's where you can send the money, and the Friends groups can decide what goes on in the parks. If there are no particular Friends groups for the parks, then there can be other organizations like Blue Hills, like other nonprofits that are existing now that can provide services. I believe we can talk about this in the future as regards how the department will look and how it will be managed. I'd also like to go on record as to say we need to go back, way back. You folks don't remember possibly, except Councilwoman Rossetti. There was a woman, Kathleen McCormick, and she was brilliant. She was one of our best public health directors. Councilwoman Surgeon will remember her. She funded so many of her initiatives by applying for grants. We are unlimited in the city of Hartford if we want to fund these recreation programs by applying for grants. So I don't think we need to address funding right now. And I'm a little disappointed at hearing folks speaking about funding. Let's just get this done now. I thank the council for the time it has taken, the research that's been done. This is something this council, and again, I'm complimenting you, so don't fall out of your chairs, but this is something that this council can take pride in and say that it got accomplished this year. So I'll end on that. Oh, and one more thing is park police. I can't wait. That's our next thing. We're going for park police, okay? Yeah, and Hyacinth Yenny will be in charge, riding a horse around, okay, running everybody off. So I'm ended on that item. I do want to speak, just 1 second. I would like to acknowledge Ms. Frazier's item 2.2, the
Tractor trailer.
Tractor trailers. We do need a definition of box trucks. We just were at our NRZ meeting a month and a half ago, and the police will not ticket if it's not specified clearly. Is it a box truck? Is it a delivery truck, et cetera? You know, does it have a commercial plate, et cetera? So that does need to be clarified. I thank you for the time, and I'm impressed that you've sat here and listened. Again, have a good evening.
Thank you. I think we have... No, I know, but we got somebody on the screen. So I see Deja Cunningham on the screen has their hand up. Deja? Going once. Going twice. Deja? Okay. So is anybody here to speak that didn't get a chance to speak? Miss Yenny? On the box truck, of course. The floor is yours.
Hello, good evening. I'm Hyacinth Yenny, chair of the Maple Avenue Revitalization Group, and I am totally in support of this number 2.2. And one of the concern I have is the enforcement. You know, as I always say, we can put all the ordinance together in the world, but if we don't enforce, it makes no difference. And I'm so sick and tired of seeing these flatbed trucks on our main street and the box truck. And as you say, you have to make sure this ordinance is plain and simple so the police can understand it. So when we ask the police to go and ticket the box truck or whatever the case may be, they know that it is. So we have to make sure the lawyer write it really well so they can understand it. And these big trailer truck that parks on our main street, it's ridiculous. It's always an accident waiting to happen. So I'm asking you please to make sure this is written thoroughly so we have no excuse for not doing what we need to do. And I think the fine should be really big. So these guys or whoever drive these big trucks and trailer, you know, hit them in the pocket. That's what I always say. All right? So I am in total support of that.
Thank you, Ms. Jennings. And being that, I got you, Ms. Prince. And being that a lawyer wrote that ordinance, I'll talk to that lawyer who wrote the ordinance to make sure that they provide clarity on the ordinance. Ms. Prince, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Councilman and Councilwomen and Council everyone. Thank you. Bridget Prince, Hartford native in East Hartford. I just wanted to thank everybody for recognizing the importance of parks and recreation. Just this last week, actually, Hartford mourned the death, and it was a funeral of Double Dutch coach P.M. Smith. Years ago, decades ago, Parks and Rec was a very important part in the development and growth of the Hartford youth. Specifically, Double Dutch, I want to talk about that. I think the first time I came here really was addressing City of Hartford on recreational issues. It was about Double Dutch, and what I want to say is because Hartford invested in those youth, they were able to learn a skill. They were able to travel, not just around the United States, but around the world. A lot of them ended up having winning scholarships. And also what Coach Pam Smith was credited for, she was literally trying to make Double Dutch an Olympic sport. And that was because the Hartford Parks and Recreation Department invested in the youth. So I think it's very important. And not only is it important for, you know, physical reasons, but it's also a great crime deterrent. So I just wanted to thank you all. I don't have an opinion on whether I'm for it or against because I don't know enough about it, but I just wanted to say that because Parks and Recs are really instrumental in the young people's lives. It really made a positive change for them. And Councilwoman Rossetti, thank you so much with the resolution that you're getting ready to present for Stone Academy. That is great. That is what a lot of these young people here, black and brown and white, you know, a lot of them students really invested themselves and, you know, they got a raw deal. So thank you so much for putting that resolution forth. And you will be getting the information hopefully in another day or two. Thank you very much, everyone.
Yes, Ms. Pelletier.
Actually, a quick relevant announcement is that the Olmsted exhibit, this is the conclusion of a year-long national celebration of Frederick Law Olmsted, who's born and buried in Hartford. He's buried in the North End. He designed the U.S. Capitol grounds, Trinity College, Seaside Park, Beardsley Park, and his legacy is just it's a national legacy. There's been a national celebration, and there's an exhibit at the Legislative Office Building. We just mounted it with Trinity College on Saturday. It'll be there until the 28th. It's in the corridor between the old, you know, the concourse. And just for the record, Big Head Fred, who's this kind of fun mascot, will be appearing tomorrow afternoon from 3 to 4 at the Legislative Office Building for a meet and greet and fun photos.
Sure.
And other activities. So anyway, this is a beautiful time. It's Earth Week. It's also Frederick Law Olmsted's birthday. It's the 200th celebration of this moment where we decided, really, our city to conserve nature for all of our residents.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Pelletier. Okay. And seeing no more folks with comment on the screen, this meeting's adjourned.